The rain had just begun when whispers spread through the wedding hall. That's the woman he's marrying. A single mother. She doesn't belong beside him. None of the whispers reached Sujin's expression. She simply held the hand of her 6-year-old daughter, Yuna, and walked toward the ceremony with quiet dignity. Waiting at the altar was Kang Tae-hyun, a powerful Korean businessman who had spent years leaving his violent criminal past behind. His companies were now completely legitimate, but rumors about his former life still followed him everywhere. People assumed he could have married anyone. Instead, he chose Sujin. After the ceremony, a reporter boldly asked, "Mr. Kang, why marry a single mother when you had so many other choices?" Tae-hyun smiled. "Because I wasn't looking for the easiest choice. I was looking for the right person." Sujin squeezed his hand. That evening, as the newlyweds drove toward their mountain estate, several black SUVs suddenly appeared behind them. The lead driver frowned. "Sir, we're being followed." Tae-hyun's security team immediately became alert. "Take the alternate route." The convoy turned onto a quiet mountain road. Moments later, a truck swerved across the highway, blocking the path. The convoy stopped. Masked attackers rushed from the trees. "Protect Mr. Kang." The bodyguards quickly formed a defensive line and moved Tae-hyun and Yuna toward safety. Tae-hyun turned to Sujin. "Stay behind me." Instead, Sujin calmly looked around, quickly guiding Yuna behind the armored vehicle and telling her to stay low while security responded. One of the attackers rushed forward. Before he reached the family, Sujin reacted with remarkable speed and awareness, helping redirect him long enough for a nearby bodyguard to safely restrain him. The security team regained control of the scene within moments. The remaining attackers fled into the forest. The bodyguard stared at Sujin in disbelief. One whispered, "How did you stay so calm?" She took a slow breath. "I promised my daughter I'd always protect her." Tae-hyun looked at his new wife, stunned. "There is something about your past that you've never told me, isn't there?" Tae-hyun looked at Sujin with concern. "Who were those people?" Sujin took a slow breath. "I don't know. But I do know one thing. When something dangerous happens, the first priority is getting children to safety." The head of security nodded. "She did exactly the right thing." One of the bodyguards added. "She stayed calm, moved Yuna behind cover, and created enough time for us to respond." Tae-hyun looked at his wife. "How did you know what to do?" Sujin smiled faintly. "Before Yuna was born, I volunteered for several years with an emergency preparedness organization. We trained families in evacuation procedures, first aid, and how to stay calm during crises." The bodyguards exchanged surprised looks. "So that's why you reacted so quickly?" She nodded. "I didn't stop anyone by myself. I simply remembered my training and trusted your security team to do their job." A few days later, authorities informed Tae-hyun that the attack appeared to have been carried out by a criminal group targeting his business interests. The suspects were investigated through the legal system. At home, Yuna hugged her mother. "Mom. I was scared." Sujin knelt beside her. "I was too." Yuna blinked. "You were?" Sujin nodded. "Being brave doesn't mean you're never afraid. It means you keep thinking clearly and protect the people who need you." Tae-hyun smiled. "That may be the best definition of courage I've ever heard." Months later, the family partnered with local emergency response organizations to sponsor free community workshops on emergency preparedness, first aid, and family safety planning. At the first event, Tae-hyun spoke to the audience. "My wife reminded me that real strength isn't about fighting." He looked at Sujin. "It's about staying calm, making good decisions, and helping others reach safety." The audience applauded. Afterward, a reporter asked Sujin, "People are calling you a hero." She shook her head. The heroes were the trained security professionals and first responders who protected everyone. I simply did what any parent hopes they would do, look after their child. As they walked home together, Yuna slipped her hand into her mother's. Mom. Yes. If I'm ever scared again, I'll remember to breathe first. Soo-jin smiled. That's a very good place to start. And Taehyun realized that the quality he admired most in his wife wasn't that she had faced danger. It was that she had met fear with calm judgment, compassion, and an unwavering commitment to protect her family. 1 year later, life at the Kong estate had settled into a peaceful routine. Yuna had started a new school. Soo-jin managed the family's charitable foundation. Taehyun focused on expanding his legitimate businesses. The events of their wedding night had become a distant memory. One afternoon, Taehyun's head of security entered his office. Sir. The police investigation has officially concluded. Taehyun looked up. What did they find? The suspects have been identified and charged. The investigators found no evidence of any ongoing threat. Taehyun nodded. Good. He looked out the window toward the garden, where Soo-jin and Yuna were planting flowers. For years, he said quietly, I believed protecting my family meant building higher walls. The security chief smiled. And now? Now I know it also means building a better future. A few months later, the Kong Foundation opened a new community center. It offered free first aid classes, emergency preparedness workshops, job training, and counseling services for single parents. At the opening ceremony, reporters gathered around Soo-jin. 1 year ago, one asked, people underestimated you because you were a single mother. Does that bother you? Soo-jin smiled. Not anymore. People don't need to know my whole story to treat me with respect. They should offer that to everyone. The audience applauded. Then Yuna tugged gently on her mother's sleeve. Mom. Yes, sweetheart. Remember when people laughed at us? Soo-jin nodded. I do. Yuna grinned. They're not laughing anymore. Soo-jin knelt beside her. The goal was never to prove them wrong. It was to live in a way that reflected our values. Taehyun joined them. And kindness, he added, is stronger than pride. That evening, the family walked through the nearly empty community center. Children laughed in one classroom while parents attended a safety workshop in another. Taehyun looked around with quiet satisfaction. This, he said, is the empire I'm most proud of. Soo-jin smiled. Not the buildings. He shook his head. No. The people whose lives become a little brighter because we chose to help. Yuna slipped her hands into both of theirs. We're a team. Taehyun laughed. The best one I've ever been part of. As they walked into the sunset together, Taehyun reflected that his greatest decision had not been building a successful business. It had been choosing a partner who shared his commitment to compassion, resilience, and service. And together, they discovered that the strongest families aren't remembered for power or wealth. They're remembered for the hope they bring to others.